And that's not true at all. Yeah, the president can't just come along and say, I determined that gas is $2.16 a gallon today. No, he can't do that. But he can create policy, in a sense, and he can implement policy that actually has an effect on oil production, on supply, which is ultimately going to trickle down to you and me. Not only that, the president obviously has power to sign bills on things too. He can do executive orders, or if a bill comes in that says, hey, we're going to increase production here, or we're going to deregulate this area of the oil production industry, for example, then that comes along his desk and he can sign that, right? So he does have a lot of power in this sense.
From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
So gas prices have hit a long-time low, and I'm going to discuss that and what I think some of the reasons for it are. Also, I want to talk a little bit about a new California law that is touting to protect consumers, and people seem to be very optimistic that it will do that, specifically in the automotive space. I'm skeptical of it. We'll discuss that as well. And Rivian is on its way to becoming the next American Motors. And unfortunately, I don't mean that in the best way possible. I think it's going to, right now, they're on a track to experience the same fate as American Motors. So we are going to get to that. Oh, and I broke my Subaru. Yeah, it finally happened. So it did. I'm not actually being sarcastic. It is broken. So anyway, we're going to get to all of that. It was only a matter of time, right? It was only a matter of time. So we'll discuss that and more on this edition of the Automotive ADHD Show. Of course, you can find it all across the radio in Southern Colorado on my flagship station, AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer, but also on 100.7 The Word and 91.7 KLZR. We are all across Colorado, and we are all across the internet as well. Lots of great places to catch this on video, YouTube, Spotify. You can check out the show, Facebook, Instagram, and more. And by the way, speaking of video, if you are tuning into the video version of the show, things look a little different here. This is really cool. I'm really excited about this. I'm very much so excited about this. It has been something that's been a long time coming. I've mentioned it only a few times in passing on the show, which is that I am building my own shop. And it's a humble shop. It's not very big, mostly because I'm not made out of money. But it is a humble shop. It's 1,000 square feet. So really, I say shop. It's more of a glorified 4.5-5 car garage. But I will call it a shop. For all intents and purposes, it is a shop. And right now, I am in the brand new shop. It truly has only been a structure here for a couple of days. And if you are watching on video here, if you check this out, that was right there. That was the cement foundation being poured not all that long ago. And then this is the structure actually being built. And if you're watching on radio, that's how that works. It's a fairly basic looking building. It is nothing fancy, but it is important as a car guy to have a place to work on cars. You can spend all this money, you can spend all this time working on these project cars, buying project cars, planning projects, maybe impulse buying things on Facebook Marketplace, and it doesn't do you any good if you got to be out in the snow working on it, in the dark, in the cold. It doesn't do you any good. So, granted, I've been there. I've wrenched on cars in the dirt, in the cold, in the snow. The benefit, by the way, to wrenching on cars in the snow, especially if it's like really packed down, if it's kind of hard packed snow, is it sort of acts like a creeper, the thing you slide on to go underneath the car. The snow sort of does that for you if it's packed in enough. So I guess there's kind of a benefit there, but the drawback is it's cold. I remember being in high school. And I was working on one of my vehicles, and it needed a fuel filter. The fuel filter got clogged up because there was gunk and rust and terribleness in the gas tank. And instead of trying to replace the gas tank, I just kept replacing filters, as one does. And it was, it was in the middle of a winter storm. It was probably -10 outside. I want to say realistically, it might have been a little more, but I think realistically it was about -10. And I'm crawling underneath this thing. It's cold. My hands are freezing. And I get the fuel filter off, and it's underneath it near the tank. It's not conveniently up near the engine. It's underneath by the tank. And so I get this thing apart, and I pull it off, and suddenly all of this fuel that must have been -10 as well starts gushing down my sleeve and into my armpit. And oh man, it wasn't fun. And it was like the sort of cold where your hands are just constantly hurting. And then you slip off the wrench and you bash your knuckles and your hands are already hurting because oh man, you've been there. If you've been there, man, you know what I'm talking about. So that was sort of the reason for building the shop. The other reason for building the shop is because my lease was coming up at the house I've been living at. I was renting it. I told you on this show how the landlord actually had threatened to call ICE on me because they thought I was harboring illegal immigrants based off of the number of vehicles that were present. That did happen. So, but my lease ended, and surprise, surprise, it didn't get renewed. No, it wasn't actually my fault. The landlord was cool and wanted to move a family member into the property. Maybe the cars might have had something to do with it. But anyway, that's what got the wheels in motion. That's what got things turning to build a shop and do that on my own. Also because trying to buy a shop, man, it's expensive. It's really expensive. So building one in this case ended up being I don't want to say cheaper because we'll get into the cost breakdown as the project goes on. You can see that here in the shop, it's still uninsulated. The walls are exposed. It's the garage door's not even done. It doesn't exist yet. It's still a work in progress. I think I'll put a lift over there somewhere. We made the concrete a little extra thick over there. Anyway, it's got a long way to go. And I got to wire it, and I got to do electricity, and I got to do all this stuff. So basically done. And anyway, but and you might also hear the audio quality is a little more echoey right now because until I put the insulation in, it's going to sound that way. So, but having said all that, it's important to have a place to work on stuff. And we've all had that friend too. I'm calling out a buddy I can think of who works on cars in storage units as well. And you don't want to. Eventually, there comes to be a point where you don't want to do that. Now, obviously, building a shop is expensive. It was more expensive than I thought. This was my first time going into it. I've been doing a running tally on how much this endeavor actually was. And we will do that on a later date with the show, mostly because I'm not done spending money on it yet. I think I know how much I'm going to be at. If you want to take bets in the comments on what you think a 1,000 square foot shop with, by the way, I'll give you some other details. It's got 12-foot walls, mostly because the lift I'm getting is just shy of 12 feet, so it has to clear those. And it's, it's 1,000 square feet, 12-foot walls, and then the snow load for the roof. We've got a lot of extra trusses, and they're big, heavy-duty trusses, mostly because, I'm in a place that gets snow and cold and wind, so we had to... it had to be overbuilt a little bit. But we'll get into all of those details. I've learned so much in this endeavor. And if you're a car guy and you wrench in your own garage, I'm sure it's crossed your thought of what would it take to put a shop in my backyard if I have the space? What would it take? And some of us have embarked on that. And there's different ways to do it. And there's certainly reasons for why I did this one the way I did it. Most of it was cost, frankly, because doing it the way I really wanted would have been double or triple my budget. So it's kind of, you get in the situation of either double or triple your budget and not have it because you can't afford it, or do something that actually does get the job done, but you got to make a few concessions. It's a lot like working on cars, in fact, especially when it comes to project cars. You make something that has extra power, makes a lot of power, puts it down really good. But you lose something else too. You lose something in the form of reliability. Everything's a trade-off, right? So we'll get into all of that. Now I'm trying to determine if the shop cost as much as all of my cars combined, which it might. It might actually. So, granted, my cars aren't worth all that much. But anyway, coming up after the break, I want to talk about gas prices, and I want to discuss how I broke my Subaru. That's all coming up here. You can maybe throw some guesses at how I broke the Subaru. I know. Anyway, that's all coming up. You're listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
His motor skills are just fine. Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
You are listening to the correct car show, by the way. No, it's not NPR. No, it's not one of those other car shows. You're in the right spot. And, a couple of things I want to get to here. Gas prices are at a new long-time low. I can't say an all-time low because, well, that would be amazing if it was an all-time low. But a long-time low. We'll get to that. And there's an update on a story I covered last week about a bad software update bricking Jeep 4xe Wranglers. So we'll get to that. But before we do, you need to know about SpyTech GPS trackers because, look, I've talked about them before. You know that you need a way to track your car. Car theft is a major problem. I've had a car stolen. It's a terrible feeling. And what do? You fill out the police report and then what? Silence. Nothing. Usually nothing happens. And that's not necessarily the police's fault. It's just that car's already on its way out of the state by the time you filed that report. And where do you start from there? Most of the time that happens. But it got me thinking because these trackers are really handy. What else can we track with a SpyTech tracker? And obviously there's things like your trailer and stuff like that. No. We're taking it a step further here on the Automotive ADHD Show. I've got my SpyTech GL 300 here, and what it does, so it has here's the tracker if you're watching on video, and it has a little magnetic case that you can buy as an extra add-on, and that's super handy. Again, I typically throw that on a frame rail on my trailer, and it's good to go, but I have used it for something different. So let's put that in the case. Close that up. There we go. Check this out. Look at this. All right, for the benefit of my radio listeners, this case with the magnets has a bunch of 10 millimeter sockets on it. I cannot think of a better use for a rugged GPS tracker than this. This is amazing. I mean, come on. And you know the problem. Right? For example, there is this interdimensional void that socks go to sometimes, and 10 millimeter sockets. They just disappear. It just happens. Nobody knows where they go, and they just disappear. And trust me, right now, go into your toolbox, open up your toolbox, and you'll see a blank spot where that 10 millimeter was. Why? Well, again, it's a law of the universe. Actually, it's just it's like Isaac's probably 10th law of the universe, something like that. I think Isaac Newton did something with this, but look at it. It's not going to be there. And if it is, in some rare chance that you have a 10 mil in your toolbox right now, it's because you just bought it this morning to replace it because it disappeared last night, right? That's how that happened. So what I've done, I put the 10 millimeter sockets on the back of this. So now I don't necessarily think it'll prevent these from slipping into the interdimensional void, but at least I will know, because they will take the tracker with them, that I'll know at least where they are. And so I can at least stop looking for them. I'll pull out the really convenient app. It's an awesome app. Pull it out, check it. Oh, yep, there they are. It's to the left there in the interdimensional void space. Okay, at least I know where it's at, and I can stop looking for the sockets, and I'll just go to Harbor Freight and buy some more. That's perfect use of it right there. Save 15% on your SpyTech tracker. Auto ADHD 15 is the discount code. Use it at SpyTech. Tech spelled T-E-C, spytech.com. Oh, and you can also stack that with an additional 35% off of an annual subscription. Do the math. It's really good. Spytech.com, promo code AutoADHD15. And keep those pesky 10 millimeters from, well, you can't keep them from disappearing, but at least know where they are once they have. So I want to thank SpyTech, by the way. So quick update on that story from last week with Jeep, and we'll do this real quick because I want to get into the gas prices. But Jeep, if you're just tuning in, you missed the story last week. Jeep issued a software update, an over-the-air update that caused a widespread failure in their Jeep 4xe hybrid Wranglers, specifically the hybrid ones. And this is yes, it's an isolated problem, but I think it is evidence of a bigger problem in the automotive industry. And it has now become, though, in this case, the update is it is now officially a recall. It's been filed with NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Side note, they're very adamant about calling themselves NHTSA, but when you look at that acronym, NHTSA, that's not how acronyms work. But anyway, I digress. Having said that, the documents filed say that the update resulted in, quote, incomplete communication between the telematics box, TBM, and the hybrid control processor, HCP. The faulty communication causes the HCP to reset, which then knocks out the drive power, whether the car is already driving or not. You can see how that could be fairly dangerous if that happens while you're driving, for example. And again, yes, it's an isolated issue with a specific single Jeep model, right? But it's a bigger problem. Evidenced by this, too. This also just came up. Hat tip Andrew Collins at The Drive. Audi infotainment screens were bricked for months by a bad Sirius XM update. Yeah, same thing happened. In this case, not a drivetrain-related thing, so severity-wise, a little bit lower on that scale. But the problem being is it's over-the-air updates. I mentioned this last week. I said this is the problem. The common denominator here is over-the-air software updates. And, sometimes you get to accept the update and click, okay, yep, I want to take that update. Other times you don't even get a say in it. Sometimes you don't even know, oh, my car doesn't over-the-air update. Really? It probably does. You just don't know it. Unless you've got, an old clunker or something like I have a few of. Those aren't going to over-the-air update. That's a solution, by the way, just buy old cars. But I think it's a major problem in the industry. I think it's only going to get worse. Also, can I throw this out there? What if there was a cyber attack? What if hypothetically an adversary of the United States, pick your favorite, whichever one, and what if they had some sort of cyber attack that infiltrated the systems at, Jeep, for example, and pushed a software update that deliberately bricked the vehicles? The fact that you can even get over-the-air software updates means that your vehicle is vulnerable to either bad updates like this or outright cyber attacks. Now, we haven't seen a cyber attack cause something like this yet, but there's no reason it couldn't happen. Tell me one technical reason why you can have an over-the-air software update and somehow be impervious from a cyber attack using that same system. Yeah, it can be encrypted, it can be secured, all of that. A determined hacker, if there's a will, there's a way. Just like car thieves. You can have all the locks on your car. You can have the steering wheel club. You can have all of this stuff. You can have all of that, and a thief is still going to do something to get that car. He's either going to cut those locks off, or heck, he's going to roll up in a tow truck and just drag it away if he's determined enough. So that's why I think over-the-air software updates are a huge problem. Not just, and I thought about this after last week's show, after I made that point that, manufacturers sell you these incomplete vehicles and then, missing features even in some cases, and then say, yeah, we'll give it to you in an update later. Or they don't even say that up front. You just find out, and then you go, hey, what the heck? My diff lockers don't work. Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, we forgot to tell you. Those don't work yet. We'll send a patch sometime. When? I don't know. I paid for the functionality of that, and I don't have it, right? So that is why I am very anti over-the-air software update. Now, there's going to be critics. There's going to be people who jump into the comments on YouTube, which I encourage you to do. If you're watching this online, jump into the comments on YouTube. There's going to be people who say, yeah, but you can get all sorts of cool features that you weren't expecting, like Tesla adds this and that, and through an over-the-air software update, it gets a self-driving mode now, and you didn't have to change anything. Yeah, that's kind of how they rope you in, isn't it? It really is. Because, they want you to think, oh, I can maybe get these cool upgrades over time. And maybe there's a convenience factor. Maybe there's a novelty to that. I won't deny that there's not a novelty to that. But is it worth the cost? Is that novelty of like, ooh, cool, I got an update. My car's got it makes a new, if it's a Tesla, I don't know, they added new fart sounds to the system, which is already a thing that it does. So maybe I don't know. My point being is that novelty worth the security risk? Is it worth the long-term usability risk? Is it worth the bad potential for software updates to go awry? Is it worth hackers getting into the car? Is it worth a rogue government, for example? Let's get on that slippery slope. Let's slide all the way down that slippery slope. Is it worth a rogue government, for example, who maybe differs with your political views, saying that, yeah, we don't like these guys. Let's turn their cars off. And we can do that because it has over-the-air updates. And maybe not just updates. Maybe it has over-the-air control. Maybe they can, who knows? That's a real slippery slope. Very slippery. But you can see a world where that would possibly be the case. Actually, in fact, that did even happen. Sort of. A good example of this was when the war in Ukraine kicked off. There were people calling for Tesla to shut off remotely, which they have the ability to do, apparently, to shut off Teslas in Russia as a retaliatory thing. Now, whether I think we can all agree that the war in Ukraine is objectionable, right? But when you open that can of worms and start turning off Teslas of civilians in another country who are not combatants in that war, you may even feel justified in doing it, right? And maybe we would all feel justified in it. But the problem becomes, well, what if the tides are turned? What if the person who doesn't, what if you have that, maybe an unpopular a political opinion. I'm not equating a war with a political opinion. But my point being is that once you go down that rabbit hole, now Elon at the time had said, no, we're not going to do that. But the fact that they could, if they wanted to, is still a problem. And it was a good call on him for saying, no, we're not going to remotely shut down people's Teslas. And presumably, he was thinking of the same ramifications. Well, if you do that here, then what's to stop another government from asking you to do it over here to these people and to these people? And it just becomes, it's a moral dilemma that you don't want to find yourself in. So to Tesla's credit, I think they made the right call in that case. Even though I think, again, we all find that war incredibly objectionable. Again, I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying that once you get into that realm, you then open yourself up to this moral dilemma. But the fact that these cars already are technically capable of this is problematic on its face already. It just hasn't happened yet. We haven't had a cyber attack where it's happened that way. And who knows? Who knows? Do we want to find out? Do you really want to find out? Or would you rather drive around in a 10, 15-year-old car that, well, it might not have all the features and it might have a locked down ECU, but it's not getting software updates, and it sure as heck isn't getting bad ones, and it's not getting hacked by whoever, right? You can still use it as a car. Someone's going to comment, oh, what about an EMP? Okay, all right. Yeah. We're going too far down that slippery slope right now, but just think about that. So, hey, we'll get to the gas prices and why we're seeing a new low in those gas prices. Also, I got a few other fun things to get to. My Subaru, my brand new 2024, it's broken. How did I break it? How badly is it broken? We'll get to all of that and more. You're listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. Don't go anywhere.
There's an extra toughness in trucks. Ram Tough. Dodge Rams are a new generation of pickups. Bodies armored against rust with more galvanized steel in critical areas than any Ford or Chevy. Dodge Rams go beyond what the others call tough. Dodge trucks are Ram Tough. Now 10.9 financing on all new domestic 82 and 83 Dodge pickups. Participating dealers have details.
I have the 12 valve or something. Like that. Is that what He-Man says? I'm pretty sure that's what He-Man says. Would He-Man that had some He-Man vibes to it there if you were watching on video. The animation there was amazing. Would He-Man drive a 12 valve Cummins though? Would he? 100%, I think. Does that mean Skeletor would be more of like a Ford Power Stroke guy? I don't know. I think that checks out. I think that checks out. Oh, hold on. Hang on. Hold on. The Diesel Bros on the internet have just informed me that the Ram didn't get the Cummins until 1989, was it? So that means that entire joke was pointless, is what they're telling me. So, well, dang. Anyway, that's a shame. I guess He-Man drives a Toyota then. So, fine. You're happy now? Jim Miller probably is. So anyway, the gas prices. We're seeing an interesting swing in this. Gas Buddy has this report, came out just a couple of days ago, and they say Gas Buddy confirms. Gas Buddy, of course, is if you're not familiar with it, it's a service that helps you find cheaper gas, and it gives you a map of where you can find the best prices on gas. Anyway, they say Gas Buddy confirms national average hits lowest level in months as first $1.99 price surfaces. Yeah, $1.99. Who's got a $1.99 gas right now? It's not here in Colorado. I'll tell you that, and I know it's not California. It's probably $7 a gallon still in California. That would be my best guess. But they go on to say the national price of gasoline in the U.S. fell below $3 a gallon on Sunday for the first time since December 29th, 2024. They say North America's trusted fuel savings platform for Gas Buddy's North America's trusted fuel savings platform for more than 25 years. And they say the intraday national average stood at $2.96 per gallon. That's the national average, $2.96. And that is on track, they're saying, to be potentially the lowest daily average since May of 2021. So, wow. Okay, so we've got national average that's a lot lower. And when I was on my trip to Montana and back last week, of course, if you tuned in on the video version of the show, you saw that we did the show from Yellowstone while I was driving through the highway loop around Yellowstone. It was really cool. I can tell you, I saw a lot of different gas prices. I think, just thinking off the top of my head, I saw some of the more expensive gas prices here in Colorado, frankly, especially northern Colorado. Once you got out past North Denver, get to Loveland and that direction, Fort Collins, all of that. I saw it get kind of expensive out there, in fact. I saw the prices dip down once I got into Wyoming and into Montana, interestingly enough. And I would say I was paying somewhere in that ballpark of probably, and now granted, I was in the Subaru, which takes premium. It's a turbo car, takes 91 at least. And so I was paying a bit more. I was paying like $320 something, $330. I think the highest I saw was $340. So yeah, there's, and don't quote me on those exact numbers. I, at the time, didn't think to make note of them. I wasn't even thinking about it. But they say, Gas Buddy says seasonal factors could push prices even lower in the coming weeks. They are saying their prediction is that the national average could dip into the $2.80 range, which is incredible. And I think that'll, for one, mean that a lot of people will probably do a lot of driving for the upcoming holiday season. Is it too early to talk about holidays? Might be a little too early. We're already running some radio ads for the holidays on this station. I know. I heard a Christmas ad and I went, what? Halloween hadn't even happened yet. What's going on there? But I do think that if this trend continues, people are going to see, we're probably going to have a lot more people road tripping for the holidays, which I'm all for that. I mean, air travel gets so congested. I griped about air travel last week on the show. I love road trips. I even did, like I said last week, I did a road trip for a work trip, and it was still fun. It was still worth it. So, that's definitely good. I think that, for one, it's more fun, but I think it'll encourage people to do that more. Now, the thing that is interesting is Gas Buddy cites a recent decline stemming, they say, from OPEC's decision earlier in the year to increase oil production, marking a shift from a 2023 strategy of cutting output to prop up prices. So they say since March 2025, OPEC has raised production. Now, I think there's some other reasons on this. And one of those reasons is, honestly, and a lot of people aren't going to like that I'm going to say it, but a lot of that, I think, comes down to the current presidential administration. We get political on this show as it relates to cars. We keep it within that field. There's, especially if you're listening on my flagship station, there's a lot of politics. It's a news talk station. It's news talk. It's political talk all week, right? So I try to be your break from that on this show, but I gotta say, with gas prices, we had the Trump administration declaring a national energy emergency, and saying, bringing to the front the Unleash American Energy policy. The administration signed an executive order earlier in the year saying that the official U.S. policy is to encourage energy exploration, and production, on whether that's on federal lands or, in different areas. And that's not, and I'm not saying it's just tied to that one thing, but it's the administration's stance on this as a whole. I mean, you've also heard the phrase drill, baby, drill, right? You've heard that phrase undoubtedly, and it's true. And they're doing that. People are going to say in, the comments, and people are going to text me, oh, well, the president doesn't actually have a say in gas prices, That's kind of like a default argument for this. And that's not true at all. Yeah, the president can't just come along and say, I determined that gas is $2.16 a gallon today. No, he can't do that. But he can create policy, in a sense, and he can implement policy that actually has an effect on oil production, on supply, which is ultimately going to trickle down to you and me. Not only that, the president obviously has power to sign bills on things too. He can do executive orders, or if a bill comes in that says, hey, we're going to increase production here, or we're going to deregulate this area of the oil production industry, for example, then that comes along his desk and he can sign that, right? So he does have a lot of power in this sense. And a lot of that too has come from some deregulation, especially on federal lands, to get more oil. The presidential administration too has committed in many ways to speeding up oil and gas project approvals, especially if those are happening on federal lands, or public land as it's known too, because you and me, the taxpayer, we all collectively own the federal lands, really. But, the problem is, in the last administration, oil companies were really uncertain of what was going on and what was going to happen next. They were uncertain that if their federal leases to drill in certain areas were going to just get yanked out from underneath them. And that means they're not going to invest in it. They're not going to put more equipment there. They're not going to hire people in those areas. They're not going to create jobs there because they were uncertain. That was the stance of the last administration. The current administration has come in and has said that, hey, we want to do all of these different things. Another one of those things was lifting limits on drilling in Alaska's reserves, which, again, all of this ties into increasing our production as a whole. It all ties into that. And I would also, there was also here the creation of the National Energy Dominance Council. Again, bolstering this emphasis on creating energy and actually getting this oil and doing it as cleanly as possible. Not to mention that the administration has a good relationship with the Saudis, and we still import a ton of oil from the Saudis, right? So all of this goes, I know there's going to be people who don't want to hear it, but all of this goes into these gas prices falling, and those numbers prove it. They absolutely do. So let's keep it up. Anyway, we'll be back on the Automotive ADHD show.
The Subaru head gasket thing was a joke, but here we are, 8,000 miles, and... wait a minute. That's not... Oh, I'm in Yellowstone. I didn't know the Earth also vaped.
Under the hood and behind the mic, Matt West is on Automotive ADHD.
I got you. I know I did. And the reason I say that is because I got like 6 friends of mine with that too. Now, the car is broken. It is, but it's not the head gasket. So, oh man, I sent that to a buddy of mine. If you're listening on radio, what I did is I was in one of the near one of the geothermal features of Yellowstone, near one of the geysers, and there's this steamy kind of sulfury smelling air going up, and I parked the car just so that it looked like it was coming out of the front of the car, and I sent that to a buddy of mine specifically, and within seconds he calls me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, dude, you blew up the Subaru." I was like, did you watch the whole video? It was like 12 seconds. He's like, no, I only saw the first 2 seconds of it. And I was like, oh, I didn't. I watched the whole thing. And then he did. And then he had some colorful language that I can't repeat because of FCC regulations. Though the FCC is closed right now because the government is closed. So I'm not going to push my luck, though. So anyway, of course, those words were in a friendly, affectionate sort of way, obviously, as 4-letter words strung together tend to be. But so what happened to my Subaru, though? Okay, so it's not the head gasket. I kind of mentioned it while I was driving around Yellowstone last week, which is that it was making a clicking noise from the front end of the car, specifically backing up. It was making a clicking noise. And to me, that sounded like CV axles. That was my immediate gut reaction because I actually had something similar happen on the K-swapped S2000 sitting behind me over there on the driver's side. One of the CV axles failed. And so I'd kind of thought that it was like that, but I'd also done some research, and it turns out there's a technical service bulletin for my 2024 Subaru that relates to a front control arm problem, and it relates specifically to where that control arm kind of mates up with the ball joint, and the surface there is machined in such a way that it clicks, it maybe makes some noise. They're saying it doesn't really matter, it doesn't affect anything. So I thought it could be one of two things, either that TSB or the ball joint. So I took it to the dealership, and when I did, the technician was also aware of that service bulletin, said, well, we'll see which one it is. And at least the tech's diagnosis was that it was the CV axles, and they just replaced those this morning. And I haven't picked the car up yet, but they did give me a call and said that that they fixed it, and it was the CV axles. So 8,000 some miles in, the car needed a set of front CV axles. I don't know why. It's not like I'm actually beating on that car. I'm not launching it hard on the pavement. I maybe slide it around in the dirt a little bit. But it's not even like I'm doing it at full lock and then like gunning it. Like axle shafts, CV axles don't necessarily like being at a full lock position and then having torque applied to them, right? It's not like I'm even doing that. So go figure. Maybe it's some bad parts, but I don't know. The fact is that I have a warranty on that car. It actually feels weird to even take it to a dealership because that's just not my personality. I wrench on all of my own cars. I always have. In fact, if I was paying someone to do any of the work on these cars, I frankly just couldn't afford them. I'll be honest. I wouldn't even be able to afford them. Let's be real. So, but it feels weird going to the dealer. But I'll give a shout out though to Huberger Subaru here in Colorado Springs. They are not paying me to say it, but the service experience there has been really nice, really smooth. The advisors are great. Importantly, they have a waiting room with free coffee. And it's not like when I've worked at dealerships, the waiting room coffee sucks. It's not good. And maybe you get lucky and it's like a cheaper espresso machine, right? No. They have a full coffee bar with the person staffing that coffee bar who makes you espressos and drinks. And they're all great, by the way. So like props to them on that. The waiting room there is fantastic. And again, the service experience, I've been really happy with it so far. And again, the reason I'm doing that is because I have a warranty on the car. It's like the first vehicle I've had with a true manufacturer warranty. And I went all out on that warranty. I've got the platinum bumper to bumper coverage. And let me put it this way. I'm going to be that guy. And first of all, I got to apologize. If you're the tech working on my car, right? Maybe if you're a flat rate tech, especially, I really do feel bad for you. But I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that customer who brings it in for every little squeak and rattle. Oh, there's something squeaking behind the dash. What's that? I don't know. Oh, there's a little crackle in that passenger front speaker. Oh, bring it in. And yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. If that's you working on the car, I'm sorry. But I'm going to be that customer. I paid for that warranty. And gosh darn it, I'm going to take full advantage of it. I am determined to use that warranty. So anyway, that is, I guess, the luxury afforded to me. It still feels weird, though, having someone else work on my car. I don't know, because I do all my own stuff, like I said. The K-swapped S2000, here's a great example. It's sort of relieving in a way, though, because when I have a problem, there's always this sense of, oh, gosh, I got to troubleshoot this. I got to figure out what's wrong with it. Maybe I'm not going to be able to get the part. It's going to be a pain. I'm not going to be able to drive the car for a bit until maybe I get a part from Japan. No, I just take it to the dealer. Have them deal with it. Again, I don't know if Huberger's techs are flat rate, but I don't know. Anyway, so one of the things I wanted to get to here is, well, two things. I wanted to tell you about Rivian and why I think they're becoming the next American Motors in not a good way, but also a new law on the book in California that people are saying is going to protect consumers, and I think I'm really skeptical of this. And I think we'll save the Rivian story for a bonus. We'll do that as a podcast bonus here right after the show, so tune in for that on the podcast. But this comes by way of the San Francisco Chronicle, and they say consumers who buy or lease a new or used car from a California dealer will have meaningful new protections, including a first-in-the-nation right to return a used car for a refund within 3 days of purchase and improved pricing transparency. That's what they say. Now, this is Senate Bill 766. It's called Combating Auto Retail Scams, or CARS. Politicians like to do these acronyms on bills and things, which, by the way, mirrors a federal one that happened back during the Biden administration, but it got shot down in the courts. So, and spoilers, that might tie into this. We'll see what happens. But with all of that being said, what this does is it adds that 3-day period. Now, there seems to be a misconception. I've heard this before that, oh, yeah, you got 3 days to return a car, used car to a dealership. No, you don't. You don't. Nowhere does that happen except, well, now in California it does, but nowhere else. And when you buy a car as is, when it says as is on it, you are buying the whole car, including its problems. That's how that works. And then people go, well, it blew up 2 days after I bought it. You bought it as is. I hate to say it. And not that I'm sympathetic to someone who's had their car blow up 2 days after they bought it. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. But that is the risk of buying used as is. And people say, oh, the dealership ripped me off. The dealership may have had no way to know that that used car was going to blow up at that time. Maybe they did, and they deliberately, spoilers, I've seen some dealers do some terrible things. That's not what I'm getting at. But my point here is that this is a first-in-the-nation thing, like they said, even though, again, people seem to think this is something that happens elsewhere. It's not. It also adds transparency, supposedly, for various deals. Like, you have to know what you're getting. You have to know what you're paying for. I agree with the sentiment on that because obviously you want to know what you're getting, but they already provide that to you with all the dealership documents. Like, you actually read that. They're like, wow, we want to prevent people from getting scammed into buying oil change packages on an EV. Okay, yes, but read the dealership. Read what you're signing. Actually read it, and that won't be a problem. Where I think this could cause an issue is, imagine this. Imagine you have bought, someone could do this. Now, they say there can be a restocking fee on this, but it can be no less than $200 and no more than $600. So what if somebody was enterprising enough and just kind of went around buying used cars, and then at the 2-day mark or right before the 3-day mark, they go, I don't like it anymore. Return it. Pay a $200 restocking fee. I could see that being a bit of a problem. I don't know. We'll let me know what you think about this. Is this something that really protects consumers? Because I think that this, for one, is a problem, a solution in search of a problem. And for two, I think this could cause a lot of issues, and with dealers too. Like, how are they filing paperwork with this 3-day turnaround? Does the state still want taxes before 3 days? I don't know. Hey, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Automotive ADHD Show. Talk to you next week.